Angus Young, how you doing?
Good, Becko.
The Offspring.
How's it going, Becko?
Dave Grohl, how you going, mate?
Good, man.
Pete, it's been a long time coming.
Oh, Becko, hasn't it indeed?
We go inside the dressing room, speak to the biggest names in music,
Keith Richards and the Rolling Stones.
and crack open their esky.
That's exactly how I imagined you, by the way, sitting opposite me with a vodka and orange.
You're a discerning chap. This is The Rider.
And here we are. Hey, this is Becko. We're up to Ep 4 now of The Rider. Thanks so much for everyone who's caught up on all the podcast eps so far. We've had Andrew Farris from In Excess, Ben Lee, Nick Sester from Jet talking about his brand new project, Skipping Girl. That was released last week, so you can catch up right now on all podcast platforms. Now, normally I like to have a bit of a chat before we get straight into it, but it's the Christmas rush. We have 2 weeks left of Christmas shopping. Every single weekend is booked up. If you're lucky, it's probably your last week of work. Let's get straight into our next guest here on The Rider.
Hey, it's Andrew from Wolfmother, and it was an absolute pleasure to be here.
We're here with Andrew, Ian, Aidan and Will from Wolfmother.
We got Andrew Stockdale.
Hey, I'm Andrew Stockdale from Wolfmother. We're here in Columbus, Ohio at Rock the Range.
Well, the 6th album is out, and it's been a long journey for Andrew Stockdale and the band Wolfmother. Formed in Sydney in 2004, by 2005 they had a pretty solid lineup of songs for the debut EP. There was Woman, there was White Unicorn, Apple Tree, and this got the attention of Interscope Records and some heavy hitters over in the States. Before you know it, they had David Sardi producing the debut album, and the rest is kind of history. I mean, that debut album sold over 1.5 million copies. Cosmic Egg came out in 2009. I think Andrew's going to tell us about how difficult that album was and how expensive it was being the follow-up. Then he took a bunch of Wolfmother songs and worked on a solo album called Keep Moving in 2013. But now this album is out, the 6th album. It's a tribute to Eddie Van Halen. You're going to hear those great riffs throughout this album. It is called Rock Out, and it is out now. And I can see his Zoom screen is loading up right in front of me. Let's say g'day. Andrew Stockdale, is that you?
Yo,
How are you?
doing good. I like the setting.
Comfortable, relaxing, a couple of books and a plant in the background. And I was going to put a guitar there, but I thought that would just purely be faking it because it's a guitar I haven't even touched yet. So that,
You
that
don't, you don't actually play the guitar?
I'm learning, but that's all I'm at. And when I say learning, I did a couple of lessons like during COVID, and that's as far as I got. So.
Well, better than my Crazy Clark soundproofing.
It looks good. So this is your studio at home, right?
Yeah, I just needed a space to when COVID hit and everything was locked down, I was like, man, I'm getting all my guitars and put them up on the walls and bring everything home just in case I never see it again.
Yeah.
So I put everything back here, soundproofed it, and
I know you got that other workspace in Bangalore as well. So is that where you did a heavy sort of recording more in that room? And this is just you on your own?
Funnily enough, we tracked the drums in this room.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So we just set up in here, did guitar and bass. No, hang on. Guitar, drums. I was sitting down, recorded it all here. And some songs we've done up at Bangalore.
By the way, Andrew Stockdale, welcome to The Rider. It's so good to have you.
Hey, good to be on The Rider, man. Good name. I like that.
Yeah. Well, look, I have to ask you first up. I know what the answer is right now, what is in your rider, but what was in your rider before you gave up drinking?
What did we used to just local beers. It's I think at one point it was a bottle of Grey Goose.
Was that when that was before you were paying the bills on your own tours? Because you were like, hey, look, if they're going to give us a bottle of Grey Goose, let's just take it,
That was a friend of mine's favorite vodka. Diego, the photographer who you've met.
Oh yeah, good guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was for him. But what happens to the rider is that everyone sort of turns it into their own, and you look at the rider and you're like, man, I don't even know who came up with this stuff. It's just whoever the sound guy is, the photographer, or But there's been the Grey Goose, one bottle of Jamo. I know who put that on the rider, but
Yeah.
And what else? Yeah, and then just like local beers, you know, because you don't want them running around trying to get. But I like a Negro Modelo.
Yeah, they're great. Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah, it's Modelo, and it's the Mexican beer. I've been out with you a couple of times for dinners and stuff, and you had your first zero alcohol beer with me at the Spanish restaurant near World Square. Have you stuck with that? Are you going to keep going with that, or is it the first and last time?
Yeah, by December this year, it'll be 3 years.
Hey,
yeah, thanks, man.
Man, that's good.
So yeah, there's a few positives to it.
I'll tell you what, you do, the weight just falls off, by the way, when you give up drinking just for a couple of months. Like it's amazing how much you lose just by not drinking. It's also probably because when you are drinking, you're having kebabs and just burgers. You don't care. It's just
like one beer is the equivalent of 3 donuts or something.
I believe it.
The calories
I totally believe it.
of all yeast and hops and everything is like, definitely puffs you up. But it's pretty easy. I think when you stop drinking, though, that's the first thing that hits you is the sweet tooth. What I have is like just dates or like some kind of fruit. But yeah, I mean, of course, for a little while, I think in Europe, I was just eating like heaps of chocolate. And I kind of thought like I deserved to eat unhealthy food because I wasn't drinking. I'm like, I'm having a Coke and a Toblerone and a freaking hot dog because I'm not drinking. I need something to live for.
And that was the rider. I know, really.
Yeah.
I mean,
that doesn't work either. But yeah, the rider, fuck.
And you do tour a lot lighter these days. You've been telling me like you used to have all the gear with you and whatever, but now you can literally be carrying a guitar, maybe a couple of guitars, and you don't even need to take an amp with you anymore. If you
well, that's it. Like, I mean, sometimes you get a booking agent going, "Hey, we've got this gig in freaking once-off gig in Miami. It's like some gazillionaire doing a show here. Can you guys just fly in and do that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man. You don't need get a drum kit, and we've got our own little mobile amplifiers, so it makes you more versatile. If like crazy opportunities come along, it's not like, oh, we got to call up 30 crew and 35 road cases, and I won't do it without my special lighting that makes my skin look like perfect."
It's amazing. You hear about these stories of other bands coming in and they got plane loads of gear, and you're doing pretty well where you can just get the same guitar sound out of a box plugging straight in, and pretty amazing. Actually, looking behind you, what is your favorite guitar you got behind you? Is that a double axe you've got there?
Gibson gave that to me like years ago. It's a double neck SG. But yeah, a friend of mine sent me this text this morning. It's kind of related to what we were talking about, but it says what John Lennon said. Someone asked Lennon what kind of amp he wanted, and he said one that plays.
Is that great?
Yeah, I mean, if you got the songs, who cares? I think Wolfmother's always about guitars, bass, drums, and the vocal, and a good riff, and that's what rock and roll is, isn't it?
What was it like at the very beginning? You were telling me that you were living in a loft sort of near Chinatown in Sydney, and you demoed most of that first album in that little empty sort of loft apartment with no bathroom. Yeah. And before you know it, you're on a plane to the States and you're recording the first EP. And,
we recorded the first EP in that space.
So that was all done there.
Yeah, that space. It was like, it was all on Cool Edit on a computer that I bought from Grace Brothers with a credit card. I had breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the Grace Brothers Cafe.
Wow.
I used the toilets at the Three Monkeys. at the hotel across the road, like everywhere around Liverpool Street, the Spanish Club. Instead of having, because there was no shower, I used to go to Centennial Pool and do laps, like every morning, pay $5 and do laps up there. It was kind of good. It was good training for the road, you know, like I literally, there's a mattress on the footpath. I dragged the mattress off the footpath and threw it up in this. That was my bed. Like,
Wow.
yeah, I would never do that. It was pretty crazy. Like we were across the road and there's another one being built next to the old building that I was in in the Spanish Quarter. We went up to the rooftop after the first jam and we were having beers on the roof and it was just like a black hole. And I just threw the beer bottle like up into the air and it just like disappeared down into this, like there's no one in.
No.
I heard someone at the bottom, hey, what are you? No. But there's something about those times when it was like, we're ready. Like, it was like the dude camp. You know what I mean? It was like, we're all here. We're in this crazy space. We're playing music. Like, there was some kind of solidarity or something. We were just like ready for the adventure, you know? Because before we were all like in the domestic life, like I had a little apartment in Elizabeth Bay and guys had their places. So we were all like, music was just part-time and I was the first one to fall off the normie life and live in this random, you know, space. And I think it really magnetized people that like I dedicated myself to something.
If you saw that, Foo Fighters doco about van life, a lot of those big bands, they yearn for that life again, you know, where they all pile into one van, they somehow make it all fit, you know, like origami. So they're able to get the amps, the drum kit and all that stuff in the back of the van and then manage to pile everyone inside and travel 1,000 kilometers to the next town, you know.
Well, you know, the last tour we did of Europe, all the buses were booked out. So we actually were back in a van for this tour, but everyone stayed in hotel rooms after the gig. So we didn't go to sleep on a bus and sleep in a bunk whilst the bus is driving, you know, down the highway to the next gig.
Yeah.
But when you're sitting like opposite someone in a tour bus and you're like, you know, after doing 8-hour drives or 5-hour drives, you sit there and you're like, hey, you know that bit on Colossal? Like it actually, like, what if we do this and this and then, you know, and you have if you're on a tour bus, you'd just be lying in your bunk. You wouldn't see anyone. You can kind of disconnect.
Yeah, yeah.
But I find the van, you have lots of conversations about the show and the set, and you see a band that's in a van talking face to face. They're freaking tighter.
Yeah.
They're ready, and they've confronted all their stuff, you know, whereas big bands can just hide. Everyone's isolated, everyone can hide from each other, and it's sort of, you never really get a chance to like talk about the set because you're at if you're doing a sound check, you're like in front of everyone, you don't really want to be like, you don't want to confront people, you know, keep it friendly.
Yeah. I think of bands like U2 who do a conference call after the gig in separate cars as they're leaving the stadium and asking each other, oh, how do they go? What do you reckon? They literally do a conference call, link up between all the parties and their managers. And it's kind of the same thing, but not really, you know, it's interesting.
It's good to like, I think now that, you know, with social media, everyone's kind of analyzing themselves. Hey, it's like, you know, you could watch this interview back and be like, oh man, maybe next time I'm going to like that. You know, I think we're all kind of, it's a good tool to use in a sense, because it sort of like it moderates itself. Like you don't have to say anything. Like people can be like, oh, far out. Yeah. That was a bad outfit. Or
Have you gone down in COVID? Because in fact, the last lockdown, you were the last gig I went to back in June, I think it was, in Sydney before the lockdown started. But it was also, I think there was some COVID kind of around, but not really yet. And everyone was a bit nervous. And I remember saying to you that it was the most wild gig I've been to in over a year because there was no seating. It was
a proper mosh pit at the Enmore indoors, and somehow you pulled it off. And I think a few days later, it was all locked down. That was it.
Yeah, that
Amazing.
was awesome. Like I remember waking up one morning and I just thought, no international bands are in Australia. Like it's all just Australian bands. No one's seen a gig in a year or so. We've got to book something big and take advantage of this situation, you know, like people will, it's not like they're seeing, I think people were just like force fed every band under the face of the earth. And we're just like, everyone was just used to like seeing U2 and everyone once a year, and they got kind of complacent. You know,
for sure.
The bands got complacent. They're like, another tour, another show. And now they're like, that's gone.
There were so many Aussie bands who were not even massive bands, but just bands that you go and check out live, every now and again. But they were only touring just kind of every now and again. But even if they were only doing the big venues in each city. They weren't doing the regional tours, and they were not doing residencies or anything like that. And then COVID happened. Then all of a sudden, all these bands were like, you know what? If I can book the Factory Theatre or the Enmore and do 5 nights in a row, 2 shows a day, we're good. We're happy. Whereas a year earlier, those same bands were only playing once every few months, if that.
Like, 5 nights at the Enmore, you'd be crazy if that wasn't enough for you.
Yeah, I know.
Half capacity seated and all that kind of stuff. When you sign up to be in a band, it's like you almost feel like you got to be everywhere that you're offered, because you got the best job in the world, so you should be available to every opportunity that comes your way. And now that that's gone, it's like, it's kind of nice just doing like this, this works, and you still get to kind of be at home a bit and not entirely miss out on your life for like a month or 2 months, and have a different life, which is great. That's what we're here for. That's what we're talking about.
Well, it's a good little reset for everyone to get to know their families again before we all, go back on tour again. So, I'm sure you've enjoyed it. You're living in Byron Bay; it's paradise. So, in fact, you did a gig a couple of weeks ago at the Beach Hotel, and that was sort of as soon as things opened up, it was like, wow, cool. You got some crowds.
The Beach Hotel and the Burleigh Bazaar.
Great.
Like a week or 2 ago, which was a new venue up at Burleigh Heads.
It
was about 650 people. Almost, they were saying they could have gone to 1,000. Yeah, so man, it's game on. And that was fun. Yeah.
Well, now I want to rewind back. So I want to go back and talk about your first album. That was just an absolute epic album, and you recorded that in the States. Where'd you go for that one?
Well, Sound City. We tracked drums there.
Huge.
Where do we go after that? Then we went to the Pass, which is a place on fancy studios. Like we went to like the Sound Factory, I think Sunset Sounds, probably about 4 or 5 studios, and we were spoilt, man. We went straight to the top.
Tell me about Sound City, because we've seen that documentary and how Nirvana's Nevermind was recorded there. It went through tough times after I think earlier on, I think the 80s was tough times, and then when eventually went broke, Dave Grohl bought the desk and he's now got it at 303, I think it is, his studios. But what was it like being in there? Was it a dump? Like everyone says it was a dump, but it was awesome.
Well, it depends what your definition of a dump is. It's like a dive bar, I love those dive bars in the States, and that's what Sound City was like. It was like a truck stop diner kind of vibe. So yeah, I wouldn't go so far as to say it was a dump. Man, for me it was like heaven on earth for an Aussie kid over in LA recording in a pro studio like that. I'd moved from a dump. You in a dump, man. I was in a dump.
Did you feel the history though? Like knowing that this is where the current proper Fleetwood Mac lineup first met, Tom Petty and of course Nirvana played there. I mean, you you must feel the history in those places.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, they're like, oh, everyone's, when you look at the tracks on the console and you think, man, those songs have gone through these same tracks. That's pretty epic. Yeah. Well, the first thing that comes to mind for me, I'm like, someone had sex on this soundboard.
Well, they showed in the documentary, the carpet on the walls and how there's holes been punched and yeah, there was probably a couch that got used, I'm sure. So
debauchery and yeah, that's where we did drums, and we had a jam. There's one song on that first record called "The Earth's Rotation Around the Sun" or something. And I think we were like drinking tequila, and they had like the last reel of tape, and we just jammed for like an hour or something, drinking tequila. And yeah, so yeah, check out that song. It's pretty cool. Like,
because it was known for its drum sound, so I can understand why you would have done your drums there. And then back then too, like the budgets on those albums, you must have. You still paying it off?
Well, I have recouped. I don't know if did I mention this? I've just recouped like literally 6 months ago, like however long that's been, 16 years or whatever.
Yeah,
it's bizarre, isn't it? But the first record was relatively priced. It was Cosmic Egg that for some reason cost an absolute fortune. I'm not sure what went on there, but I won't go into the details. But that's session guys, accommodation for a bunch of people. So I just recouped about 6 months ago or so.
Congrats.
I got my first royalty check like 2 weeks ago.
That's insane though. Look, we have had conversations before about questionable money things with the first album and how you weren't sure whether you were ever going to get a check out of that. And it's insane that you finally got that after so long.
I can't believe it. If I didn't make a second record, I would have done better. Way more money if I didn't continue with Wolfmother, which is kind of ironic. But it's because I got whacked with the debt.
Yeah. And well, this is also what happens though when a band are doing their second album. This is often when, as you say, it gets more expensive because you tried and tested, and engineers can charge more than the going rate. But when a band's doing their first album, often you probably get a few favors and
yeah. Well, yeah, I won't mention figures, but I'd say the second record was 5 times more expensive than the first record.
Wow. Yeah. God. And then around, I think it was 2011, you got rid of the Wolfmother name for a little bit. And in fact, the way you described it to me, you and it probably didn't happen this way, but I loved it. You said, we were sitting around a campfire and we wrote Wolfmother down on a piece of paper and threw it in the fire. And that was our way of cleansing ourselves from the name Wolfmother.
Yeah, we might have done that down at when I first moved here. But on Keep Moving, like I was like, I'm gonna build my own studio downstairs. I'm gonna make my brother my manager, my next door neighbor my accountant. He wasn't even a registered accountant, I think. And I put the roadie on full time. I put the band up in accommodation. Everyone was on a retainer. I literally, what else? I had everything go. I just like spent the whole lot that I remember just seeing the Wolfmother account just like go from looking amazing to like next to nothing. And I was like, we did a tour and like got everything back on track, and Universal were like, I don't know if I should go into the inner workings of the whole thing, but they were trying. I don't know. I won't go into it.
It's all right. For legal reasons.
Let's just say this. I managed to get off the deal, and I got, and I just made it a solo thing, and I just upload. Actually, I didn't even upload it. It took me 8 years to upload it. I left it on my laptop. And I recently, I sold that house 2 years ago. I just want to be like done with that phase of my life. It was just such, but you learn, like there's no handbook for this stuff, and I mean, now everything's on YouTube and there's all this advice on everything on Instagram, you know, but back then, you know what it was like, you know, 2008 or 9, like no information's available on anything. And just the fact that we were an internationally successful band was like an anomaly to everyone in Australia at the time. It's just like, what is this guy doing? Like, this is just, how did he pull this off? You know, it was just, people were baffled by the whole Wolfmother thing. Like, do you remember like the vibe back then? But now everything's all like, we've got this, we've got these contacts and this, you know, people know, like no one knew about Coachella or, you know, Isle of Wight or Donington, or like no one knew what was
especially
going
those big festivals you're playing in Europe, and only a small part of the market would have had any idea, or you know, down in Mexico when you were going down there. I mean, you know, so the place has changed, and you know, it's but the good thing is you must be itching to get back on a plane now. What's the first overseas date you got locked in?
We start in Barcelona.
Great.
In March next year. And yeah, just all throughout Europe for a month or so.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, man, Europe has been the gift that keeps on giving every year. I just get a whole bunch of dates, you know, put in front of me. It's like, do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? And it's just gotten bigger and bigger. And yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's just really worked well for us over there. And Aussie band guys and American crew guys that we've taken over to Europe, they're just baffled that it's this good. Like the food is this good. The venues are that amazing. People are so polite. You know, you get looked after.
If you need a second manager or something, I can make myself available, and I'll just come along for advice and guidance. And and free local beers from the dressing room.
What we need is a videographer.
Okay, perfect.
Film the whole thing and like put stuff up on our socials. Like I remember saying to my manager in 2009, I was like, man, we got to get someone just to do social media like Facebook and all this and YouTube and stuff. This is going to take off. And they're like, what? Just shut up and get on the bus and keep touring. But yeah, no one thought that, they just thought it was crazy talk. And
now it's normal. Yeah.
Now it's massive.
Each band member usually has their own social media person, not just the band. There's usually 5 people hanging around the band taking, Instagram stories and photos and whatever. Our last tour, like at the Enmore that sold out, and Tivoli and big venues, it was just Facebook. Yeah.
No promoter. You know what I mean? Nothing. Like that's insane. Like, 10 years ago that was thought to be impossible, like street posters, mainstream press, mainstream TV. Now, artists are just like like us, just one post on Facebook, that's it.
I wanted to ask you, because we've talked about other Aussie bands and other, you've supported so many amazing, internationals as well. AC/DC.
And we've had a lot of amazing supports too. You've had a lot of bands as well.
That's right. That's right.
Loads of them.
Who was the biggest partier? Who was the one band whenever you played with them that you always knew it could go off the rails pretty quick, if you're with them?
Effed up band, most effed up.
Yeah.
Well, one of the loosest shows I think was Dallas or Houston or something, and we had this support band. We've taken the Black Angels out on their first European tour.
Yeah.
When they were like, the one guy's a school teacher and he used his credit card to like pay for the flights to get over there.
But I heard stories that the Jet were really full on when they were on that first big, the Get Born tour through America. I heard they were like one of the craziest bands ever at one stage.
They were just themselves constantly. I find you can do that for probably 8 shows and then you hit a wall. And then reality kicks in and you just see a bunch of people just sleeping in a band room looking like they want to go home. So, I mean, it's all good and well to like try and do that, but try pulling it off. You know what I mean? Try living that for a month. See how you go. Well, it's fun for a little bit. I mean, but I think you just got to find your rhythm. Find what works for you. But for me, it's just been good to chill out, take a break. And like now I see it. I've got people who come along like backstage in like New Jersey and they go, "Hey man, good to see you again. Oh, far out. Remember last time?" And I'm like, dude, I can't even remember. And I'm like, I must have been really friendly to these people and gotten on really well, but I can't even remember what the hell we talked about or what. I think sometimes you might just have like a full-on deep and meaningful rant with someone, and you really make an impression, and then you're like, you can't even remember what you said.
I've definitely had moments with musicians I admired, and they've had the deep and meaningful off their nut. And I'm standing there sober going, I don't know what to say to this person. They're not going to remember tomorrow. Oh, mate, Andrew, it is so good. You're looking great, looking healthy, and some time at home, has been really, really good. And I guess you're enjoying the eye of the storm before the world of touring begins again. Early next year for you. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah. Hey, well, likewise, man. Good to see you getting this podcast thing going, and it's exciting to see the next chapter in.
It's going to be fun, and one of those ideas you write down on a to-do list, and you go, oh, you know what, I can do that now. So here we are.
That's it, and do it, and just, I think consistency is the key, and just like churning out content. It seems to be, that's what works. Like, and
it's so much easier that you can just book a Zoom chat. You don't have to make sure that two people are in the same city at the same time. You can just go, you know what, let's just do it on Zoom. And it all works really well. And I also get to see your guitar collection.
And the thing is, like, it's not like, think in the old days, like you'd do an interview, it'd be gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It'd be good. And you'd be asked the same 5 questions and it's completely gone. Then you go into the next interview, same 5 questions, completely gone. So essentially you're doing the same thing 200 times, and none of those individual things will ever know what that asking you the same questions. Yeah. But now this will be on there as long as you want to leave it up there.
Yeah.
But all these questions are answered, and then you go to the next thing and it's like, it's different.
Well, it's so good where no time limits, you can go as long or short as you want, and it doesn't matter. And the good thing is it's, people can do what they want to. They can listen to the whole thing or come in halfway or whatever they want. It's great, But look, it is great to catch up. And now that travel is alive and well, I'll see you in Byron soon. But thanks again for your time on the Rider.
Yeah, pleasure. Good stuff. Thanks, man.
It is always so good to catch up with him, Andrew Stockdale. Wolfmother going to be back on the road. There's plenty of dates out there already. In Australia, you can see him at Uncaged. Wolfmother are playing Jan 22 in Brisbane, Jan 29 in Melbourne, and then Feb 12 in Sydney, and a whole bunch of other dates happening right around the world as well. So it feels like we're getting back to normal. Gigs are back. Festivals are back. Hopefully you're vaccinated, and hopefully this new variant does nothing, and then we can get out to a festival in 2022. Well, there we go. Andrew Stockdale. Go and check out the new album, Rock Out, and Midnight Train is the single. And thank you so much for catching The Rider once again. You can follow, you can click subscribe on all your podcast platforms. Back again next week. Before we dive into Christmas, we have an Aussie rock legend on the podcast next week to tell us some pretty awesome stories from out there on the road. So next week, I'll catch you then. This is The Rider with Becko.